Greetings, one and all. I'm Paul James Caden, and this is the Spirit Side. And today we're going to talk about the great lost arts of loyalty, love, and friendship. And this is kind of a part three of everything we've been talking about this week. The first video earlier this week, we talked about what is wrong with humanity, and we talked about the way people are acting, the way they treat one another, the way society just seems to be degenerating. And in video two, we asked, are we being programmed to live in a society of death, disease, and violence? And we talked about the people in power, those in industry, those in government, and with a lot of money, how they put those subtle messages out there to try to instill thoughts of fear and violence and anxiety and stress and even sickness and disease into people's minds. And how some of them actually try to make a profit and are making a profit on other people's sufferings through this. Today we're going to bring it down to a more personal level and look at the relationships around us, our personal relationships. Because, my gosh, it seems everybody's relationships are suffering these days. Relationships are breaking up. Friends are betraying one another. Families are fighting and being torn apart. We have individuals in friendships or romantic relationships who get along so well or love each other so much, and then there's that fashionable thing. Someone just goes ghost and disappears on the other. No word of explanation, no letter, no warning, just gone. And I have to ask myself the question, are people acting this way because of the way society is degenerating? Are people afraid to trust others because there's so much melee in our world and in our societies today? Is it that subtle brainwashing and messages that are being put out that's wearing people down, making them become more complacent, more selfish? Because among those subtle messages out there, there's an awful lot of it that's love yourself, think of yourself first, you're the most important person in the world. So are those messages kind of affecting a large portion of our society where they're really taking it to heart? They're really just beginning to say, hey, I'm the most important person in the world. To heck with everybody else. You know, most of you know that I do spiritual counseling and spiritual advising for a living. And it's just incredible, particularly over the last several years, there's been the increase of horror stories that people who come for spiritual counseling or for a reading talk about the family unit just fighting. Nobody gets together anymore. Siblings just call one another to fight and bicker and blame and carry on some drama. People always, lifelong friends suddenly just disappeared or turned on them for no reason. People that have been in relationships or married for a number of years or months, got along great, never argued, suddenly just wake up one morning and the person that they thought they knew is completely different. Mean, spiteful, hurtful, argumentative. I don't love you anymore. I need space. This is all your fault. You're sick in the head. You need to reevaluate what you've done because you've ruined this relationship. And the person being told all this is standing there going, what the hell are they talking about? I have no clue because we never even had a disagreement. So what are they saying all this to me for? And ladies and gentlemen, this happens a lot. In the kind of work that I do, relationships, whether it be love, family, friendships, relationships are the number one question and problem that people come to someone like myself with. And it's just gotten really crazy with the things that I'm hearing. And I'm not only hearing it in my line of work, but I'm seeing it happen in the world around me. People that I know or people that I'm acquainted with having the same problems. I've had it happen to me. And there are many people like myself of all ages 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even into their 70s who are sitting back going, what's happening with the world? What's happening with everybody that I know? My family, my friends. We all grew up in the same era. We all had the basic same belief system and code of moral conduct. And people are just going insane, becoming rabid, mean, turning on one another. I did a reading for someone here on YouTube. Older lady, I would say mid-latter 70s. Just because she decided to, she was never really a spiritual person, but then she decided, she wanted some spirituality in her life. She started meditating, going to different like little meetings in her community, and all of her friends, once they caught word of this, all of her family members and her friends told her she was nuts. It was going to ruin her life. She was stupid. She was idiotic. And most, except maybe one or two people, completely abandoned her just because the woman wanted a little spirituality in her life and she found meaning in something that brought peace and comfort to her life. And she didn't push it on anyone. She just made mention of it, and one friend told another, and one friend and another person told another person. It spread like wildfire, and before she knew it, the woman was attacked in her 70s. All of her friends in their mid-late 70s. She didn't understand it. She was completely perplexed. And I'm perplexed with her. Like, how does that happen? Why does that happen? What is making this happen? Is it the pressures in society? Is it the subtle programming? Is it biblical prophecy coming to pass in this day and age? There's that verse that talks about in the last days, the love of many will grow cold. They will be selfish. They will be arrogant. They will be haters of God, haters of men, greedy, ruthless. Is that what's happening? Is this widespread phenomenon, does it have more of a spiritual cause than material or psychological? I mean, these are things I think about. These are questions I ask because this has gotten really bad. I've noticed it. A lot of other people notice it. And I'm of the belief system, if we don't stop this, it's going to get even worse. You know, my wife has a sister. It's the same thing with her family. They've all split. None of them talk to one another hardly anymore. She has one sister who calls her a couple times a year just to argue, just to insult, just to be mean, just to blame, just to pick a fight. Why? Yet she'll turn around and say, "You're my only family member. Oh, we need to get together. I love you." But then the next words out of her mouth, "I hate you. You think you're better than me." And it just spirals into places that it boggles the mind. My own brother. I don't know what happened to him. He was creative. He was spiritual. He was down to earth. But over the years, it just seems he's gotten so full of himself. A conversation with him is just about himself. He's become the kind of person that if he makes a new friend or someone he likes to spend more time with, you'll not see hide or hair of him. You're pretty much written off. And he'll talk about you and say things about you behind your back about the way you talk, the way you look, things you did. Boggles the mind. The man is 54 years old and yet acts like a teenager. And he's had people do this to him. And you'll talk to him and he'll rail against these people. Oh, these idiots that they only come around when they want something. They're full of themselves. All they want to talk about is what they've done and what they do and how great they are and how smart they are. Yet he does the same thing. How could someone not see that they're becoming the thing that they despise most? I've had a lot of friends go off the rails with me over the years, in various ways. The most recent was an individual, and I thought it was a good friendship because we're older, we had a lot of things in common, same basic background, as people. And I thought, hey, this dude's all right. I got to the point where I actually looked at him as being like a brother. I made the mistake. I shouldn't have done it. But one day, it was Easter time. I noticed that he took a liking to my wife's sister, the one that argued all the time. She was on a little bit of a best behavior plan and actually came around a couple times. They seemed to like each other. They came for Easter one year. They were both looking for relationships. So boldly I say, why don't you two just go out, And, they kind of sputtered over it, but they did. And it was a disaster. My friend had a complete meltdown. We didn't care. We didn't hold it against him, because he's funny with relationships. We knew this. So we tell the guy, it's all right. Drop it, walk away from it. We're not going to think any less of you, because we know she's a little off balance. We know that you have some issues with relationships and trust and all that sort of thing. But after that, whatever it was, it was just all of a sudden overnight, he acted like we murdered everyone he knew and tried to kill him. Never spoke to us again, avoided us, no word of really explanation of what made this individual think or react that way. If someone knows you long enough, is there for you enough, and they say it doesn't matter if it's that big of a deal, just walk away from it. We're not going to hold it against you, and we didn't. And we wouldn't have. But just totally pulled the plug overnight. Boom, done. And I don't know if any of these people listen to these YouTube videos that I make. I know some of them are aware that I'm making videos. I don't know if they watch all of them or, will hear this. If they do, that's fine. I'm using these things as examples of just really friendships, family, relationships on all levels going down the tubes for little or no reason at all. And I'm not holding anything against anybody. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not saying anybody owes me any explanation or anything like that. If any of these individuals were to hear this, um, to me, I would just make that statement. It's puzzling to me. It's puzzling to me to see people act in such ways, and again, not only in my life, but in the lives of so many people around me and so many people that I read for. How can you how could you tell another individual, I love you, I'm your friend, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're like my brother, but then it's so easily eroded. Those people are so easily turned on or turned away from. It's the great lost arts of love, loyalty, and friendship. And I know there are some of us out there in the world who can't even wrap our minds around that kind of thing. If we tell somebody, hey, I love you, hey, you're my friend, hey, you're like my brother or my sister, or I love you like a brother or a sister, we mean it. And we don't care if that person is rich, poor, loses everything, what kind of problems they may have, if they become terminally ill, what we're going to stick with them and be there for them and with them no matter what. Because that's what love, loyalty, and friendship means to some of us. But how does it become just a thing, a byword, something to do, someone to be around when you have nothing better to do or feel nobody else wants you around? How does it become that to some other people? How do some individuals in the world show their love and their friendship by being there and giving and just through word and action showing that the other person matters to them, and the other person, it doesn't dawn on them ever to say, geez, maybe I'm selfish, maybe I'm a little bit sociopathic, maybe I'm a recluse, but geez, maybe I've been hurt in the past and I have real hard problems trusting people. But geez, look how these individuals or this individual is treating me. I'm really lucky. I'm really blessed. And I really found someone who gives a crap about me. And then appreciate that and show that in kind. How can it not? And the people that just take the kindness of others for granted or use it like a piece of toilet paper, it's here today, I can wipe myself with it and throw it away anytime I want for any reason I want or no reason at all, that kind of mindset seems to really be growing in our world today. And that's pitiful. And it's pathetic. It's like an old TV show that me and my wife used to watch years ago. It said, if we don't learn to live together, we're going to die alone. And that's going to be a lot of people in this world, I think. Because what are the relationships made of? Is it too hard for some people to have more than one friend at a time? More than two friends at a time? Is it so hard for some people just to be loyal and decent and respectful to other people who are that way towards them? The crumbling relationships are in epidemic proportion, folks, and we have to do something about it. And if you're one of those people who just, I'll take you today but leave you tomorrow, and you're listening to this video, maybe you need to think about that. How are your actions affecting the people that you're hurting? How will your actions affect your future? Who's really going to be there for you when you need someone? Maybe we all need to think if there is some kind of disaster, whether it's made by the government or the elites as they push their agenda, whether it's a natural disaster or prophetic events unraveling in our world and things get really bad. What are we going to do? Are we going to riot in the streets like a bunch of animals, like people do today, because it's all for me and nobody for anybody else? Because that's what happens when we don't give a damn about anybody else. We'll kill to take what they have. We'll riot in the streets to get what we need. We don't care whose property we destroy. We don't care who we hurt, who we kill, who we maim. Or are we going to think a little better of one another and ourselves and pull together and help one another through the hard times? You know, I've been a fan of the Walking Dead TV show since it came out. It's getting a little played, and yes, the series needs to end. But I've always found it interesting that in that world that they portray in the zombie apocalypse, the group of survivors who are the heroes, it seems everybody they encounter in this world, they're just like animals. They're trying to take from everybody else, take their food, take their supplies, take their shelter. One group, acted like they were friendly and nice, will give you food and shelter, but they were killing people and they were cannibalistic. And I told my wife one day, I said, if something like that happened or some other disaster happened where there was no food and the system went down, I feel that this is by and large how it would be in the world. People just killing one another, taking from one another, for God's sake, even eating one another to stay alive, because people don't know how to pull together anymore. If we can't stand by our family members, our friends, our loved ones, our husbands, our wives, our children, our brothers, our sisters, then who can we stand by? The stranger on the street? If they can't stand by their family members, friends, and loved ones, if they don't want to stand by their family members, friends, and loved ones, they're not going to stand by us when the chips are down. We need to start treating one another better. Because what's happening right now in the world with all this selfishness and going ghost and acting like a total ass, waking up one day and just totally changing the narrative. Yet I loved you for so many months or so many years, but tomorrow I'm going to wake up and be a total asshole to you and be mean and verbally abusive and rotten. What is that going to do, not only for your future, but the future of mankind? This is not going to help anyone. This is not going to preserve anything. It is not going to make our world a better place, and we need to stop. And I don't mean to swear in this video, but that this is one of these subjects all this week that are really just close to my heart. Seeing the way people act, the way people treat one another, the way the government, the pharmaceuticals, the subtle programming, the making profit on other people's suffering. And then we, the average Joe and Jane in our homes and in our lives, we can't even hold our damn relationships and friendships together because everybody's so out of their mind. Like I said, it's all for me and nobody for anybody else. And I've just never been that kind of person. I'm not saying I'm special, I'm wonderful. I have my flaws. I can be an idiot just as much as anybody else can be an idiot. But I know one thing: I'm loyal to my friends, I'm loyal to my family. If I say I'm going to be there for somebody in some capacity or relationship, I'm there. I've never betrayed anybody. And I know other people like this. And I just can't wrap my thoughts around why so many other people are just so mean and selfish and manipulative and heartless and egotistical. It's like watching a certain number of people in society, a high number of people in society, and people that you know and care about and once called friend or brother or sister, driving 100 miles an hour toward the edge of a cliff, and you can't stop them. And they're going to go over the cliff sooner or later, one day, whether it's in their personal life or whether it's in some bigger event, they're going to go over the cliff. And you can't stop them. And then what happens if something does happen and these individuals come knocking on our door, looking for help, looking for answers? Are people like you and me just going to be so fed up to say, hey, you couldn't come around when things were good. What the hell are you doing here now at my doorstep when things are bad? Are we going to be pulled into that selfish mindset because we're going to be so aggravated with all this kind of thing when, the Rotten Tomatoes hit the fan? It's a vicious cycle. And we all really need to think about this and stop this. I think the videos I made this week were 3 of the most important videos I've made on YouTube because they're from the heart. They're not sensationalism. They're not, oh gosh, look at the UFOs. I think sometimes we need to stop looking at the sky and the lights and the weird things going on, the paranormal, and start looking within ourselves. Because there's a hell of a lot of problems within ourselves right now, within the human race, and we're not addressing it. And I hope all of you who listen to this video, whether it be 5 or 500 or 1,000, whoever, share these videos, because this is a message we need to get out there. We need to call people into account. We need to make people aware. We need to tell people, change, be better, treat other people better, because this is not going to end well if we don't. And for those of you listening to this video who are not caught up in the selfishness and the egotism and the abandonment and all that nonsense, I say to you, job well done. Keep being a light in the world. Keep loving the people who love you. Keep helping the people who may not even deserve to be helped. Just keep being a good person. Don't let this world get you down. Don't make this world make you the thing that you despise. Don't let them break your heart or beat you down so far that you say, you know what? If you can't beat them, join them. I'm going to become an a-hole just like everybody else, because that happens to a lot of good people. Don't let it happen to you. I may not know you. I may not ever meet you. I may not even know your name. But I want to say through this video, job well done. Keep being you. Keep being a light. Keep walking in loyalty and love and peace. It will matter in the end. It will matter in your life. And I may never meet you, and a lot of other people that feel the same way may never meet you. But it matters to us that there are good people out there carrying the torch, trying to pass the flame of doing the right thing. We need change. And each and every one of us need to be the change we want to see in the world. Live by example. Maybe it'll be contagious and catch on to a few other people, and they'll get it. I'm Paul James Caden. This is The Spirit Side. I thank you for watching and listening. I bid you all peace and blessings, and I'll see you all in the next upload.